The Federal Reserve is hemorrhaging. Friend of the show and economist at the Heritage Foundation, E.J. Antony, is warning, quote, "We're going to need a bigger graph. Fed is now over $110 billion in the hole after suffering another week of losses in an unprecedented streak of red ink. The same people telling you the banking system is safe and sound found a way to lose money despite having a money printer," end quote. His post was picked up by Wall Street Silver, an account with over 1 million followers on X and a gold checkmark from Elon Musk, who added to that warning by explaining, quote, "The Fed used to make profits and sent those profits to the U.S. Treasury each year. It was usually billions of dollars per year. Now, because of reverse repos and interest paid on reserves to commercial banks, the Fed is paying something like $700 million per day to commercial banks to keep the system from falling apart," end quote. He then made this dire observation over the weekend. At the current rate of growth, by 2030, we will be spending $2 trillion per year to pay interest on the national debt. Last fiscal year was $870 billion, and we're already on pace for spending $1 trillion plus at current levels. Within 12 to 24 months, we will be paying $1.3 trillion per year as more old debt at 1% rates mature and get financed at the current 5% rates. So I'm no economist or expert in this field, but this sounds pretty bad, especially when you see the headlines today about mortgage rates now hitting a 23-year high at 8%. The American dream is now the American nightmare. So since we need an expert to break it all down for us, we have here Dave Bratt, the Vice Provost for Engagement and Public Relations at Liberty University, as well as Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's economic advisor and a former congressman for Virginia's 7th District. Dave, thanks for being here tonight.
You sound like you're an economist to me, Kara. Very good setup. Great piece.
Well, thank you. So I do want to ask you, because like I said, I'm in over my head here, and I'm just trying to learn as best as I can. So first, can you explain to me what the deal is with the argument that the feds are losing money each day trying to keep the commercial banking system afloat?
Yeah, I mean, the Fed is a quasi-bank, right? So they're kind of half government, half private bank. And they're losing money technically, but they can just print money. This is just another cost to the average American for providing liquidity. And the real story here, E.J. Antony does a great job on this stuff. But the real story is only the prime banks and the big banks get access to all these liquidity favors, right? The small mom and pop bank and the intermediate banks don't get this privilege. And so it's just it's basically the same kind of thing as, quantitative easing on the monetary side. And the Federal Reserve has literally ruined our economy for the past 20 years. So this is just another Band-Aid that's costly to us. Like you said in the opening piece, they used to make profits, right? It's kind of artificial profits, but they were making profits that went back into the budget. And so really it is a net loss to the average American taxpayer.
And so do you think that there could be a bubble forming? Is that the way that you would describe it, or is that not exactly how you would put it when it comes to the banks and what we're seeing happening behind the scenes?
It's just one piece of it's not a huge piece. This is just kind of a loan off on the side for overnight banking and special reserves for banks that get into trouble to keep them out of trouble. It's a way of avoiding like the Silicon Valley Bank problem. And so now it's interesting. You just did all the interest rate problem we got and having to refinance instead of at 0 at 5%. That's the news story that's coming. And so we're moving from a monetary story, right, with the Federal Reserve. Now we're moving into Axios, and a bunch of big media folks said, why are all the American people so angry? And the answer was inflation. And that's a political business cycle, right? So Biden and the White House goes, whoa. So the Fed's jacking up the interest rates, slowing down the economy, trying to get rid of inflation, the Federal Reserve. And then look who steps into the rescue, the federal government, right? So now the federal government steps in with fiscal policy, $2 trillion deficits to do more sugar high. And that's inflationary too. And so the big new thing, you remember in your macro econ 101, you had the Keynesian economics. Cross. And so now everybody's going to be looking up their fiscal money, the fiscal multiplier, because it's usually about 1, which means you do $1 in government spending, you get $1 in output in GDP.